recent book, Street Smarts. Now, Jim was recommending investing in Russia before the break, and I asked him, though, if he thought his country recommendations were insulated from the crisis or if they, too, will feel the pain.
Everybody's going to feel the pain. America's the largest economy in the world. It's also the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. So when those problems come, it's going to affect everybody. Europe as a whole is an even larger economy. Well, they've got serious problems facing them too. There are many potential problems out there. Aaron, you should be worried. I'm trying to get you worried.
I am terrified, Jim. Make no doubt. This is the stuff that keeps me up at night. Nightmares over this. I'm glad that you brought up Europe, though, because, you know, in Greece, Spain, Italy, and Portugal, government bonds are all on the rise. What's going on over there? Tell me.
Well, things have calmed down. Things are not getting dramatically worse and falling off a cliff at the moment. The bonds fell off a cliff a year or two ago, totally collapsed. The world didn't come to an end, so now they're rallying. But when the crisis comes next time, or semi-crisis, whatever comes next time, they will go back down. The problems of the world are not over. Greece has not solved its problems. Spain has nobody has solved their problems yet.
I mean, that seems pretty clear. You know, now Japan is engaged in massive quantitative easing and deficit spending. As the government debt to GDP, the level has reached I want to get this right, it's 230%. Do you think this ends in wealth confiscation? How could it possibly end otherwise? Other ways?
Well, it's a terrible shame because I love Japan a great deal, but you just pointed out, Japan has staggering internal debts. They do have a lot of international reserves, but internally, they got very, very high debts. Mr. Abe, the new guy, is printing huge. He has said, I will print unlimited, that's his word, unlimited amounts of money, and he is borrowing even more money. Now, I own Japanese stocks at the moment because of all that, all this money that's going to be pushed into the economy. But 20 years from now, or even sooner maybe, we're all going to look back and say, you know, Mr. Abe ruined Japan. That was the final death throw of Japan when they just went over the cliff.
Now,
I mean, they got declining populations.
Right. There's I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You were saying, continue, please.
I was just going to say they have declining populations, staggering debts increases, debasing the currency. I mean, it's going to be a nightmare in the end. He's going to go down in history as a disaster.
Now, on the other side of the argument, people say that Japan, it can't default because they can print their own currency. What do you say to this?
Of course they can. You know, the currency goes to nothing.
Right.
And you may get paid, but you're going to get paid in worthless currency. Every country in the world that's done that, Aaron, has ended up in the tank. This has never worked in the never has it worked in the long term. Never has it worked in the medium term. I said, sometimes it works in the short term. I own Japanese shares. I even own the Japanese currency as we speak today. But 20 years from now, can you imagine? I won't own this stuff in 5 years.
Right.
Japan is going to be going over the cliff.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about China. Last time you were here, we talked about China as well. The third plenum, it made it clear during that time that the Chinese is going to move towards a consumer-led growth economy. In your view, Jim, will that shift lead to further slowing in the growth of China?
Some places will slow down, yes. When you shift your economy from one place to another, the people you shift away from slow down, the people that you shift to grow. In the meantime, the whole overall may slow down some. But yes, but nothing goes straight up forever, Aaron. In America in the 19th century, as we were on the rise, we had 15 depressions with a D. And yet we came out of the 19th century as the most successful country in the world in the 20th century. This is just a normal transition that China is going through. Some people will suffer, some will benefit. If you look at the plenum, which you mentioned, you'll see they say we're going to help these industries. Aaron, if the Chinese government, which has vast amounts of money and a great track record, is going to put a lot of money into some industries, I am too, you know, because I know that somebody's going to make a lot of money, and I hope I'm one of them.
Now, what about bad debt in China, though? In 2013, non-performing loans at banks in China, they increased for an 8th straight quarter. Then, in December, we saw this mini funding crisis, and the Chinese government is now letting banks roll over all of this debt, roll the debt over. Are the Chinese doing what the Americans and Japanese did before them and putting off the inevitable write-downs like we spoke about?
Well, absolutely. It's a mistake. When people go bankrupt, you let them go bankrupt and you start over. You know, kicking the can down the road or denying reality is never good for anybody. China will certainly have problems. Everybody has problems as they rise, including China, who's done a brilliant job in the past 30 years. But Aaron, I'm not going to stop getting involved with China just because problems start developing. In that plenum, they said we're going to help. These industries are going to do well. Those industries are going to continue to do well. Other people will suffer. I'm not sure the Chinese stock market has made its bottom yet, but I do know that some industries are going to come out of all this making huge amounts of money.
Okay, now I know that you're keen on China. The future is bright in the long term, all that. But here in the U.S., a lot of our guests, they're very troubled, and they've been talking a lot about the financialization of the U.S. economy, driven by Wall Street instead of Main Street. Now, do you think this financialization is key to why the U.S. is having problems today?
Of course it is. I mean, people at Wall Street are making fortunes right now. They think they've died and gone to heaven or won the lottery or something. But Aaron, unemployment in America is higher now than it was before 2008. This hasn't solved any problems. Yes, they're printing a lot of money. Obama's spending a lot of money. The people are getting all of this money, and their friends are very happy. They think things are great. But the overall situation underneath is deteriorating more and more and more.
Now, I have one last question for you. I want to ask you about commodities because I like commodities and I like talking about them. I know that you were really, really long on sugar for a while, but that ended. What are you looking at in the commodity market today?
Well, sugar went up, came back down. You should buy sugar. I'm very keen on sugar right now. Agriculture is what I'm most interested in at the moment. You know, if you look around the world, most financial assets are down. Agricultural products are up in 2014, and I'm very optimistic about the future of agriculture in America, worldwide. You should become a farmer, Aaron.
I should become a farmer. I mean, specifically what in agriculture, though? You just gave it to me. You said become a farmer, but outside of that, I like my job. I love being a reporter. But what do you mean specifically if I'm going to invest? What would you say?
Well, first I would ask, do you know how to drive a tractor?
I can drive a stick-shift car. Does that count?
That'll help. Anyway, if you don't want to become a farmer, farmers have been in a terrible business for 30 years. That's about to change. Aaron, the farmers are going to be driving the Lamborghinis in the future. The stockbrokers are going to be driving tractors or taxis, perhaps even. The good ones will learn how to drive a tractor so they can work for the rich farmers. The world is in the process of changing. The financial center has had its 30 years. Now it's going to be the people who produce real goods. You should become a farmer, buy a farm. You can become a tractor salesman, sell seed, fertilizer, lots of ways to get involved. You could become the agricultural correspondent. You love being a reporter? Be the farm reporter. Got
it. Thank you. I'm glad that I found my new mentor, Jim. This is awesome. Jim, thank you so much. We always love having you on. Your insight, your comedy, for lack of a better word, sad comedy, but comedy nonetheless. And we love hearing from you. Thank you so much. Please come back on very soon.
It is my delight, Aaron. Let's do it again.
That was famed investor and my buddy, Jim Rogers. Time now for today's Big Deal.